Is this just a string of bad luck, or is there seriously something going on in Dallas? Um, More injury news, some bad news, right? But there is some good news. There is what they say, a uh, a diamond in the rough. I don't know if that's a good term, but a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know what you call it, but there was some good news about an injury that came out a little bit earlier today. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about a little Cowboy news, and we'll talk about the schedule for the show right here next on Cowboy Spit.
Here we go! Yeah, here we go! Wait, take
Cowboy Spit.
Throws back of the end zone. There's CeeDee Lamb.
What's going on, everybody? Cowboy C3. I hope everybody's having a good week. There was a little bit of bright news today. It came out, man, and I was a little excited when I read about it. It's about DeMar Overshown. He had successful surgery, had ACL, MCL, and PCL surgery. I got that repaired today. The way that the surgery went, and I guess everything looked inside the knee, they were very happy with how it looked and how the surgery went. And they said that there's a timetable where he could be back as early as mid-season next year. Now, that's great. That's fantastic. But the last thing that I personally would want is for them to rush him back, or for him to rush back when he's not ready. That is a serious knee injury. ACLs are serious enough. You tear the MCL, PCL, and everything else in the knee, man, that's extremely serious. And don't rush back, man. Just take your time. That's great. I'm glad everything went well. Hope the rehab goes well. We'll talk about rehab here in a second. And I wish, all the prayers out to him, man. I hope everything goes well. Now, in other Cowboy news, Stephen Jones kind of made news earlier this week on the interview earlier this week, Monday, on the radio show. He came out and he said, Brownstown, all right. He came out and he said that the Cowboys will have a challenging offseason and money will be tight. Now, that kind of triggered a lot of things, and it also triggered Jerry Jones to come on the same radio station later on in the week. I think he came on yesterday, and he said that we are going to do things. Micah Parsons also spoke up and said, look, the Cowboys, I got a good feeling that the Cowboys are going to spend in free agency. They're going to do some big things. I want to be a Cowboy for life. And Jerry came back and kind of backdoored it and was like, hey, there's been no talk about, because there was some trade rumor talk about Micah Parsons possibly being traded. And he was like, no, we have never even thought about Micah Parsons not being here. There's never been a discussion where Micah Parsons will not be a Dallas Cowboy. Now, that's great and all. That sounds fantastic. But you can't now. Jerry himself said before the Dak and the CD deals, right, that you have to really dig in deep and figure out, is this the type of investment that you want to make in a player, right? And there's always like some sort of insult, or like, I don't know if you would call it an insult, but insulting words like, CD's not here or whatever, Dak, we could probably move on from Dak, just stuff like that. And not really necessarily move on from Dak, but, basically like, hey, take it or leave it. We don't really need him. And it always ends up with a big contract being signed. This time was a little different. He came out and he was like, no, there's never been any discussion at any time, at anywhere, that has had not had Micah Parsons on this football team. And that's kind of contradicting to what he said before. But, I think that Jerry might be seeing the light. And I don't think Micah Parsons just walks out on a limb and says things like there'll be free agents signings and, and there'll be, the Cowboys will make moves this offseason and do things that'll make this roster better. Because, well, I tell you what, let's just listen to what Micah Parsons had to say.
You to become the highest paid defensive player. Like it really just depends on the circumstances of like who are we trying to get, who's trying to return. To me, it's all about the foundation of the team. Like how can I create the best foundation and play with the guys who've helped me create a lot of success. Those guys helped me get to where I am. It's just all about the aggressiveness and how we look at free agency.
So basically what he's saying is that he wants to be here, right? But he also wants the Cowboys to be semi-aggressive in free agency. He also went on further in the interview to say that, there's no difference to him right now. If the Cowboys are going to do what they're going to do, right, and they're going to bring free agents into the program and make this team better, he has no problem with there's no difference between 30 and 40 million. And he also said, my agent might be mad at me, but there's no difference between 30 and 40 million, which means that he's willing to take a pay cut, or at least now he's saying he's willing to take a pay cut, right? Now, once checks come out in dollars and, 40 sounds better than 30, but whatever. We'll talk about that later on. I'm willing to take a pay cut if you're willing to make this team better. And I think that there are a lot of players that are willing to take pay cuts to make this team better. I bet you Dak would restructure his contract. I bet you CeeDee Lamb would restructure his contract. If Terrence Steele's going to play on the game, he's got to play on the team. He's got to restructure his contract. I think that there are people that are willing to restructure contracts to add more money to their salary cap to make this team better. That's up to Jerry to do it, right? And there has to be discussions whether it's player to owner, because, there's no separation like between owner and coach with the Cowboys. Jerry's in the locker room just as much as Mike McCarthy is. It's like, hey, I will stay here and I will play here, and I'm willing to take a pay cut if you make this team better, right? And they can do that, right? And Steven, I don't really know. Steven was talking about money will be tight. Sure, money will be tight if you don't do anything to make it not tight. I did an entire episode to where you can open up close to $100 million in salary cap space with Dak's contract and CeeDee Lamb's contract, and you'd have plenty of money to sign Micah Parsons, and you have money to add key people to this team because the free agency list is long, right? You'd have key people that you could add to this football team and make this team a lot better, a whole lot better. Now, also, you can make this team better in the draft. Of course, you can make it better in the draft. The draft picks, it's a 50-50 shot. There are guys in college that do extremely well, and there are guys that when they come to the NFL, they just don't do as well. And that's okay, right? You win some, you lose some. But you do your research, your scouting department does their research, and you come up with the best program, right? The Cowboys, because they've been winning these last few games, and they got a tough game ahead, and we'll do a preview show to that game at a later date, probably Friday night instead of Saturday. There are things that this team needs, right, to fill holes to make the football team better. Defensive line is one of them. Even though Mazi Smith has been playing a lot better, you could always use help on your defensive line. Offensive line may become an issue. I like the way the young guys are playing. I love the way the young guys are playing. And I kind of said that earlier on in a previous episode to where I felt like these younger offensive line were going to come in and the offensive line were going to come in and they were going to be hungry and they were going to do some things. You know what I'm saying? And they really have. They've done a lot better. And that's just showing by the production of Rico Dowdle. Like, he's got holes to run through now, and it's making the team a lot better. You've got wide receiver needs. You have running back needs where Rico can't be the only running back that you have on this roster. You've got secondary needs. You're going to need some safeties because I highly doubt that those two safeties will be here next year. You might need some corner needs, and we'll talk about corners here in a second. There are some things that you're going to really need. One thing is for certain, though, you're going to have to keep these guys healthy. And there has been some situations this season where things have not gone well. You've got the Overshown injury that just happened. This happened back with Sam Williams when it first started. It is when it first started in training camp, a non-contact injury in training camp before they even put on pads. It was like the first couple of days of training camp. You've got Bland that's been on. He was on the injured reserve list for a long time. Micah Parsons spent some time on the injured reserve list. Dak is on the injured reserve list right now. The list goes on and on. It's been a lot of players that's been on this injured reserve list. And now you have this Diggs thing. And this Diggs thing kind of came out of nowhere. He missed the game before. I think he missed the Bengals game. No, he missed the game. He missed the game before the Bengals game where he had a sore knee. And everybody was like, okay, it's probably that surgically repaired knee. And I started doing some reading about it, about the knee. And I figured out that way back in the summer, right, that the Cowboys said that they openly said that they weren't very happy about the way his rehab was going. And I started to kind of dig into that. And they said that maybe he wasn't taking his rehabilitation seriously. And I was like, that's interesting, because the week before that, they talked about how Overshown and a couple other guys, how serious that they took it. And maybe I'll say, okay, so maybe Diggs is kind of, not the oddball, but maybe he figured that he could do things. And, I know he always goes and he trains with his brother, right? But maybe he didn't take things within the organization, like his strength and conditioning and things like that. Maybe he didn't take it serious enough. What the team felt like would be serious enough. So then I started kind of doing some research into how the Cowboys training facilities are, how the Cowboys training staff is graded, maybe amongst other teams in the NFL. And I found something that was super interesting. I figured out that the Cowboys training facilities are ranked 26 out of 32 teams in the NFL, which is kind of baffling, because the Cowboys training facilities, I would think, with the way that their owner is willing to spend money on things, right? I would figure he'd have the best of everything. And they got graded at a C, which is not great, but it's not terrible, right? It's average. It's an average thing. And I was like, okay, so if the training facilities are bad, what about the training staff? Training staff is ranked 30th out of 32 teams in the NFL. And if you start to look at how the team, 40% of the team is on injured reserve or has spent time on injured reserve this season, that's a huge, huge number. And there's been, it's not just your special teams players or your backup players. These are quality starters in the NFL that have spent lots of time on injured reserve this season because of various injuries. Lots of knee injuries. You had this strange foot injury with DaRon Bland, where it took him almost 12 weeks to get back to playing. I know that it was said that he had a setback in training, but took him a long time to come off. DeMarcus Lawrence, I seriously doubt that he plays the rest of this season. I just don't see him playing anymore. They keep saying, yeah, he's close. Yeah, he's close. Yeah, he's close. But the timetable that they gave us, just like the timetable that was given to us about Bland, that timetable has come and gone. It's gone. Like he's well past the timetable that they gave us. And then Diggs, I kept trying to find out what happened to Diggs. What's wrong with the knee? And the best thing that I could find is it said that he had some cartilage issues that they needed to clean up, and it would take an 8-month recovery to recover from the removal of the cartilage that they needed to do. 8 months to clean out a knee? Damn, that's a long, long time. That is a long time. Especially if you're just going in to clean up some stuff from injury. Maybe the surgery was done wrong. I don't know the answer to the question. I don't know. But what I'm saying is that to clean some cartilage out in a knee, right? An 8-month recovery from that, and him starting training camp is pretty much out of the question. He may have to go through rehabilitation, and hopefully he'll be ready by the beginning of the season, right? But 8 months for cartilage, just some cartilage, repairs that they needed to do in the same knee that was surgically repaired. The ACL was surgically repaired. That's quite a long time. It's quite a long time. And it's a little bit baffling. I don't really I mean, I did some research on like some cartilage damage that you can do after a major surgery, and most of them were clean. You know, there may have been some loose cartilage that was left over in the knee from a previous injury that they didn't really find when they were doing the surgery, basically because they weren't looking for it. But everything said, 6, 8, 10-week recovery, not 8 months, not 8 months at all. Maybe it's because the knee was weak to begin with because it wasn't properly rehabilitated. And they feel like to properly rehabilitate the knee, right? Clean it out, get it properly rehabilitated, and get him back to where he was previously will take them 8 months. That sounds more realistic. However, is that an individual thing or is that a team thing? Now, personally, I've never played professional sports. I played high school sports and I played college sports, and we were all held to a standard. Like if we got injured, there was rehabilitation things that we had to do before they even let us step back onto the practice field, right? And I know you pay these guys a whole lot of money, right, to go out there and do great things, especially what they did before they signed these big contracts and started making this big money. But there's also a thing where in order for me to maximize on my investment, right, I need to make sure that my investment is 100% and I'm putting a fantastic product on the field that is going to maximize my investment, right? And that comes from your training staff, that comes from, team doctors, that comes from everybody, right? You have to get these players back to where they are 100% ready to go. And the only way to do that is really to hold them to a standard. You don't go off and do your own thing. You do what we're asking you to do. We're paying you a lot of money to go out and perform every week at your highest level. And we will do everything necessary to make sure that your body is ready to go every Sunday, Monday or Thursday, whenever you play, right? And if you don't want to do that, then you will be held accountable. So there's really no excuse for it, right? If he didn't rehabilitate it, right, of course that's on him. It's on the individual, right? Because it's up to you to rehabilitate your body. But it's also on the team because they didn't ensure that he did what he needed to do in order to be ready for the season. And you could tell by his play this year that he was not ready to go. He was operating at about 50, 60%. That is not the Trayvon Diggs that was playing before he got hurt. It wasn't. And I don't think that he was ready to play. I think that the Cowboys said, hey, we paid you a whole lot of money to be out on the field. You're not sitting out any longer. You already missed half of the season last year. You need to be ready to go. But that's also a great way to damage your product that you just invested in. And you know what I'm saying? You end up on the short end of the stick. It's a cold world, man. Like these guys go out there and football is a very physical sport. And there's going to be dings and there's going to be scrapes and there's going to get things that get torn up. And the team has to put forth the best facilities that possible. And I know the facilities can definitely be better than 26th, 27th in the NFL. I know they definitely can be better than that. Hell, they got top 3 stadium in the NFL. You know what I'm saying? But that portion, the rehabilitation portion and the training portion and all the facilities, these things need to be top notch. And if you're going to sign big time free agents and you're going to bring people in here that's going to help this football team, these areas have to be cleaned up, man. They have to be. Because if I get injured and I'm going to take my rehabilitation seriously, I want to have the best things that I can have. I want to have the best staff that I can have. I want to have the best, trainers that I can have that's going to get me back right and get me back on the playing field as soon as I possibly can. And it's just weird this year, man, that everybody's timetable has been extended about these injuries. It's weird. I just don't think it's a coincidence. I think that it's not holding players accountable, right? Because it's like, okay, if you guys feel like coming in and doing this rehabilitation, you can do it. And two, right? It's like if your facilities are ranked at the bottom of the NFL, right? Then expect and not if your facilities, your training facilities and your rehabilitation facilities and your training staff is all ranked at the bottom of the NFL, but you got all this glitz and glamour in this big stadium with this scoreboard that goes from 20-yard line to 20-yard line, then what the hell are we doing? What are we really worried about, right? Are we worried about the show that we put on every week, right? Or are we worried about actually putting a great team on the field and winning? This is all, it all kind of ties in, man. It all does. It kind of shows you like the state of where everything is right now. To me, it does, because my product, if all of my ducks are in a row, right, everything's lined up, the product that I put on the field every Sunday would be better than what we're putting on the field. It would be. It's been pretty good these last couple of weeks. And I kind of called that, man, because I said, these guys are fighting for roster spots. These young guys are coming in here and they want to show everybody that they can play too, whether it's here or somewhere else. I can play football. That I can do. I just need an opportunity to play football. And now that these young guys are getting the opportunity to play football, you're seeing, damn, these dudes can actually play. You know what I'm saying? Especially these offensive linemen. These dudes can play. They're playing really good football. Brock Hoffman is just a surprise, right? I'm surprised he didn't win the center job. I know you drafted Cooper Beebe to be the center, right? Eventually, but Brock Hoffman, the way he's been playing football, man, it's kind of hard to say, like, why wasn't he playing before? Dude is nasty. He got a nasty streak about him. He attacks defenders, and he holds his blocks, and he does everything that's necessary. You see people getting driven into the ground, and we haven't seen that. Zach Martin, excellent career, but it kind of was past his time. We saw Zach Martin getting beat. You don't see that right side. That right side is not playing terrible anymore. Hell, Terrence Steele is even playing better. Is that a coincidence too? I don't think so. I think he kind of trusts what's going on right next to him, right? And he knows he doesn't really have to concern himself with extracurricular activities, and he can concentrate on his man. And Terrence Steele's play's been pretty good lately. Hasn't been bad. So hopefully this Diggs thing gets straightened out, man, and we can get him back on the field, and he can get back healthy, and he can come out and, just be the player that he was before he got hurt. And, in order to do that, you're going to have to take this stuff serious, man. You're going to have to, and get this thing right. Not that serious. How's it going, man? I'm doing pretty good. Hey, man, congratulations on passing them finals, my brother, man. Super proud of you, man. Get that degree. You know what I'm saying? Good job. I've been pretty good. I'm super excited about this weekend. I'm excited for these college playoff games. Both Texas teams are playing. Excited to see Texas and Clemson. Also excited to see SMU give it a shot against Penn State. I think Texas will beat Clemson. Not worried about that. I'm rooting for SMU tough, man. But to go into Happy Valley, and it's probably going to be like 20 degrees, us Texas boys don't do too well when it's that cold. I'm not going to lie to you, man. So they're going to have their hands full. Cowboys got Tampa this week, which, I think it has the potential to be a winnable game, right? It does. Tampa has a very, very unique offense where, their quarterback play this year has been tremendous. Baker Mayfield has really settled in and found himself a home in Tampa Bay. That dude is super comfortable, and you can tell. He lost his two best receivers. He lost Mike Evans for a while, but Mike Evans is back. He had a big game last week, and he lost. I can't even remember his name now, man. Damn, number 14. Somebody help me in the chat. Yes, Tampa is for real. It's not that serious. Like, I'm serious. Big Ten all day. Hey, listen, I think the SMU has a really, really, really good football team, but I just think Penn State and that weather and the way that Chris Godwin, thank you, Chris Godwin, he lost Chris Godwin, but I think that that cold weather and that physicality of that Penn State offense, man, I think it just might be too much for SMU. And they definitely, the way they played in their ACC championship game against Clemson, they can't come out to a slow start. If they come out to a slow start against Penn State and let them get up 14-0, man, it's just like being down 28-0 to Clemson. Penn State is a physical football team, and they play really, really good defense. I love Kevin Jennings at quarterback. I think he's a tremendous quarterback. I love what they got going on offensively in general. And they got a pretty good defense as well, right? But going to Happy Valley, in the wintertime, boy, that's tough. That is tough. Cowboys will beat Tampa. How we played in Carolina. Don't need DeMarcus Lawrence. He's tripping too much. Diggs is out. Still play good at Carolina. I agree. They did not play bad at Carolina at all. And the reason I think they played well in Carolina is because they ran the damn football. Just keep running it. If your offensive line is opening up holes, keep running it. And as good as Tampa's offense is, their defense is just as bad. They do not play good defense at all. And they commit a lot of penalties on defense, a lot of penalties. They give you opportunities. They give up the run and they give up the pass. I want to say they're ranked third on offense, but I want to say they're ranked like 26th on defense. But at the same time, they're winning that division. They are. They took that lead over from Atlanta because Atlanta got a whole lot of things going on. They got a quarterback switch coming up. And all that money Kirk Cousins is making, if they're willing to switch quarterbacks now, but they drafted Michael Penix in the first round for a reason, just in case this happened. If Kirk Cousins was not ready to go and that knee wasn't, or his Achilles wasn't acting right, then they were going to put him in. You are literally the first Cowboys fan that's objective that I've met in my life. Look, I love the Cowboys through and through. It's not that serious. I do. I love the Cowboys through and through. But one thing that I grew to understand is because I was that Cowboy fan at first. I was that Cowboy fan that said that they could never do anything wrong. And, it was everybody else's fault. It wasn't their fault. I was that guy. But then I started to realize, man, especially as I got older and I really started to kind of understand, not necessarily football, but kind of some of the nuances of football, that this team hadn't won in a long, long time. And I just remember I was young in the Navy when Bill Parcells came to be the head coach. And that was a bad football team. Quincy Carter was the quarterback. I think Blair Thomas was the running back. And they weren't that great of a football team, but they still went into the playoffs. And they beat and they played a Carolina team that was smoking hot, ended up going to the Super Bowl. They played them extremely well and probably should have beat them. And I'm like, damn, man, if he actually had some players and he could do some things, man, like it would be fantastic, right? And then you start hearing all this rumbling about, hey, Bill wants to do things his way and he wants to do this and he wants to do that with the Cowboys, and then he's gone. He's not the coach anymore. And I'm like, damn, that's got to be something. And then as I really started to study the Cowboys, I started getting like into coaching because I always loved football and I played football for a long time. But then I started kind of getting into coaching. And then I started realizing that I could look at the Cowboys offense and I could tell exactly what plays they were about to run. Or I would be close. You know what I'm saying? I'd be like, I could be like, yeah, they're about to do this. And they would do it. And I was like, man, if I can do that, like, damn, other teams can do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's got to be crazy. But then you start looking at these other teams and how they scheme people open and how it always seems like their defenders are always in the right spot at the right times, man. And you start to realize, man, that that's just coaching. And then you start to look at your owner, the owner of the franchise, and you start to realize, man, that dude ain't about to bring no coach in here no more that's going to outshine him. He's not doing that. You're crazy if you think that he is. You're crazy. And so when you start putting mediocre coaching staffs together, you don't matter how good your team is. Like with this Cowboys team right now, you could bring one of these star quarterbacks. I got in this conversation at work. You could bring Patrick Mahomes on this team right now, and the results wouldn't be that much different. He might win you another game. That's it. You don't get, and what people don't understand is they're like, man, you're crazy. You see what he's doing in Kansas City? He's doing this. He's winning Super Bowls. He's doing this. He's doing that. You don't get what's going on in Kansas City. You don't get that. You don't get Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. You only get the player Patrick Mahomes. That's all you get. So all the stuff that he's got going on in Kansas City, you don't get that. You get Patrick Mahomes in this bunk-ass playbook that they got here. That's what you get. The results are not going to be that much different. Josh Allen, maybe, because Josh Allen is physical and he can run. He can probably get you some extra touchdowns and things like that. He probably can do that, right? But is he going to win this team a Super Bowl? With Josh Allen coming here and win this Cowboys team a Super Bowl right now? Hell no. No. Lamar Jackson, will he come in here right now and win this team a Super Bowl? Lamar Jackson will be running for his life. Because the offense that the Dallas Cowboys run right now, we can't scheme nobody open. It's the same routes all the time, right? Pinpoint accuracy. You have to be on your game at all times to make this Dallas Cowboys offense work. No quarterback is like that. You got receivers out there that they scheme open. You got receivers out there making behind the shoulder catches. Passes thrown behind them. They reaching back with one hand and catching them. Do we have wide receivers that can do that? We have a wide receiver that can do that, but not receivers. You ever notice when Kansas City, when everything goes down, right? When it's like, damn, everybody's starting to get hurt, they reload right then. They like, nope, not going to happen. We'll make this team good right now. You go get DeAndre Hopkins. Your running back gets hurt, you go get Kareem Hunt. You do things right now to make this team better. That's what you do. Cowboys don't do that. And that is the difference between a great organization and a mediocre organization like the Cowboys. It's what it is. I still love them to death. Don't get me wrong. That is my squad. I'm a Dallas boy. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan for heart. But I call it like I see it. It is what it is. No one ain't coming to Dallas because of Jerry Jones' family and the relatives because of the sorry Jones family. You know what? You're right. You are absolutely right. It would be really, really hard to talk one of these coaches into coming into this organization without getting the things that they need in order to be successful, because no coach wants to come into an organization and not be successful, right? And I'm not talking about going 12-5 3 years in a row. That's cool. Regular season wins, that's fantastic. I'm talking about when the checkerboard goes up and it's time to play chess, what are you going to do to make your team successful? Sure, you can blame Dak. You can blame Romo. You can blame whoever the hell you want to play. But just as other teams, the reason that these players and stuff, they start to look bad when it comes to playoff games, because these dudes have watched the whole season. They got analytics people that have come in, watch the whole season, watch your tendencies, watch what you do, right? They come in, they look at all this stuff, and they say, okay, if they're going to do this, they're going to do that, right? This is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. If they're going to do X, then we're going to do Y to counter it. That's what we're going to do. And the Cowboys never seem to adjust to it. They don't. And that is coaching. There's no adjustments to anything. That is coaching. If you keep running the same bullshit over and over and over again, you're going to throw a pick. That's what's going to happen. It's pretty simple, man. All you got to do is just sit back and look at it. Say, but Kansas City doesn't have a front office, doesn't use their free agents, and don't play their players late in the Precisely. Listen, when it is time for them to come, when it is time to put the rubber to the road, these good football teams, they put the rubber to the road. They don't BS around with it. It's time to go. You understand what I'm saying? And if something happens, if there's a chink in the armor, then we're going to go get a welder and we're going to fix that chink and we're going to go. That's what we're going to do. Other teams' front office are better coaching staff. These others would not trade a 4th-round pick for players like Mingo and Trey Lance. You preaching to the choir to me, man. I don't understand it. I don't get it at all. Especially this Mingo trade. What in the hell has he done that ever said that he deserved a 4th-round pick? Nothing. This dude don't even have an NFL touchdown yet. And you put a 4th-round pick on him? You got a 4th-round pick on Trey Lance that you won't even play right now. Cooper Rush is averaging, listen to me, the Cowboys are winning, yes. And I've seen a lot of people talk about how, Cooper Rush is doing this and Cooper Rush is doing that. Cooper Rush is averaging 168 yards passing a game. Sure, he threw 3 touchdowns last week against Carolina. He throws 3 touchdowns against Tampa Bay this week, then we'll talk about it. And Tampa Bay got a bad offense too. Better yet, defense too, excuse me. Better yet, throw 3 touchdowns against Philly, the same team you threw for 47 yards against. Because there's going to come a time, and it showed in the Cincinnati game, where you got to put the game on Cooper Rush's hands, right? It's got to go to Cooper Rush. And you took the ball out of Rico Dowdle's hands, who was averaging 7 yards a carry, and you put it in Cooper Rush's hands. And what happened? We lost. Offense went dead. That's what happened. The offense went dead. But you will not bring Trey Lance in. This is your 4th-round draft pick this year, and this is a team that is not going to make the playoffs, and you will not play your 4th-round draft pick. And I don't understand it. I don't get it. Check this out. When other teams hire coaches, they interview 15 people. We interviewed Mark Lewis and Mike McCarthy. Here's another thing. That's baffling to me. The coaching staff was already hired when we hired Mike McCarthy. Jerry is going to hire his coaching staff first before he hires his head coach. Who the hell wants to come in that situation? If I cannot go into a situation where, hey, I need this, and this to be successful. I want this. People I already got my team of coaches. This is what it takes to get me. And you know what I'm saying? I don't want to do it. Our team is not that good, and these players we got. Yes, agreed. You have a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. You have a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. And the thing about it that was crazy to me is that in this offseason, you had 6 starters that left this organization. Your left tackle left. You had 2 defensive ends leave. You had a plethora of people left, and you did nothing to replace it. And if anybody ever thought that this team was going to be 15-2 and go to the Super Bowl this year, that's crazy. That's crazy. At the beginning of all this, I said this team is a 4 or 5 win team. We there right now. It's not that serious. Who is your organization? Are you a Bears fan? I think it's not that serious. Are you the Bears fan? I think so. Let me know who it is. Coop is accurate. You know what? Coop is accurate 10 yards and in. Anything that Cooper Rush has to put down the field, if you watch the ball, it floats. He doesn't have good arm strength. He doesn't. The ball hangs in the air for a long time. So sure, it might get to that point. You know what I'm saying? It might be accurate when it gets there, but it's going to be about 3 or 4 defenders that have an opportunity to get to it before it gets there, because he's just not that. He doesn't have a strong arm. And that's okay. You don't have to have a big time rocket to be successful in the NFL, but you have to be anticipation. Your anticipation has to be on point. You have to put the ball in the right place every single time, right? And the way the Cowboys route schemes work, man, like a lot of times you put the ball in the right point, it just happens to be a defender standing in that point too. Actually hired McCarthy and told him Kellen Moore is calling plays. Precisely. Whoever said when Mike McCarthy got hired that he wanted Kellen Moore as his offensive coordinator anyway? Whoever said that? Right? I'm sure that he was like, yes, I want Kellen Moore as my offensive coordinator. I'm pretty sure he already had a guy that he wanted to call his offense, or he wanted to call his own offense like he's doing right now. And a lot of people are like, yeah, Kellen Moore has have a hell of a season, in Philly and blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. No. Kellen Moore is doing a really good job telling Jalen Hurts to turn a 180 and hand the ball to Saquon Barkley. He's doing an excellent job at that. Excellent. I remember you was a Bears fan, man. I don't know what's going on in Chicago. Too many weapons not to be good. Way too many weapons not to be good. It's kind of a curse. It's kind of like a curse. We go to the playoffs, play to lose, and we don't go to the playoffs. Agreed. With the Cowboys, man, it's like every single year. I understand, like you get to the playoffs, right, and you play. You get to the wild card round, and you play a team like let's just say, for instance, you play a team like Tampa Bay, right? You play a team like Tampa Bay. Sure, they got Tom Brady, but that offense, it was kind of broken. They just weren't as good as they were the year before. You know what I'm saying? And then you win that game. And nobody's surprised that you won that game. But then you get to San Francisco, and it has to be a game where your coaching staff calls a really good game. You got to put these players in position to win. And you were doing that when you had Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard was running around. He was running the ball. He was doing a great job, and then he broke his ankle. After he broke his ankle, you were lost. You could tell that the game plan was Tony Pollard left, Tony Pollard right, Tony Pollard up the middle, play action, try to get the ball down the field. And once Tony Pollard left, you had no idea what to do. You just didn't have a good plan. You still had Malik Davis sitting on the bench, who a couple of weeks before that had rushed for 125 yards against Tennessee. That dude played 2 plays. You went with Zeke. I just don't understand it. That's coaching. That's what I'm talking about. The game before that, why would you call a damn quarterback draw? You understand what I'm saying? Sure, that's just one play. Another thing that happened in that game that people don't ever start to mention, right? They never mention this, an NFL record 17 penalties in a playoff game. That's undisciplined. That's coaching. Undisciplined football team. Most penalized team in the league in 2022. 2021. 2022, I think they were 30th in the league in penalties. 2023, Green Bay just came in here and hit you in the mouth. And the first thing that Jordan Love said was, "We're just gonna run at your 195-pound middle linebacker." Did nothing to adjust to it. That's coaching. That's coaching. You came out in the first drive, tried to establish a running game, went 3 and out. Next thing you know, you're down 14-0. Now everybody's pressing. That's what happened. It is what it is. Danny, it's just everything in Chicago. It's basically like Joe Bledsoe for the Cowboys, like Coop. Well, you mean Drew Bledsoe? Is that what you're talking about? Zeke is about to get cut just like DeMarcus Lawrence. 2 just don't want to play. Now, look, DeMarcus Lawrence, no. I think something is seriously wrong with DeMarcus Lawrence, and I don't think he'll be a Cowboy next year. I just don't think that. Zeke, I think Zeke threw a hissy fit because he wasn't in the starting lineup anymore, and every time he's hit the field since then, he's been fumbling the damn football. That's what it is, man. Same thing happened against Green Bay with Dan Quinn. Gilmore got hurt, and all of a sudden our defense is playing in the zone and just lost. How does this happen? It's coaching. It is. It's coaching. There's never like this funk happens to this team, man, because when we go to the playoffs, it's like a funk. And it's because these good NFL organizations, and I mean teams that make deep playoff runs, and not including Kansas City. Kansas City, we know what they do. We know what they're gonna do. They got everything in tune. They're gonna make sure everything is in tune. But these other teams, you got your Buffaloes, you got your Baltimores, you got your, as much as I hate to say it, your Philadelphia Eagles, even though they have some internal turmoil, every now and then, and it seems like nobody on that team likes the head coach. But one thing about it is that you're gonna get a solid game plan, right, from these teams. They're gonna come in and they're gonna try to execute their game plan. If the opposing team is doing something to prevent them from executing their game plan, they're going to make the necessary adjustments to at least make the football game competitive. They are going to do that, right? They'll minimize the penalties. They'll run the ball, try to keep the team out of this high-powered offense's hands. They'll do whatever they need to do in order to win the football game, or at least be in the football game in the fourth quarter when it comes down to crunch time. Notice how it always seems like, man, it's the right play call at the right time every time. Do you ever say that about the Cowboys in the playoffs? No, you don't. That's coaching. We haven't made the second round in the playoffs since Jimmy's team left. Listen, just when I put this into perspective, bro, the last time the Cowboys went to a Super Bowl, I was in the 8th grade. I've already retired from the military now. That's how long it's been. It's been a long, long time. And there's only one common denominator from 1997 until 2024. There's one common denominator, and his initials are Jerry Jones. See what I'm saying? Long time ago, my brother. A long time ago. Long time ago. And, you know, if you look at these teams, man, it's just like the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans, when they were going through that whole thing with Deshaun Watson and the Instagram models and all of that stuff, man, when they were going through all that, man, that whole thing just looked like it was in turmoil, right? Ownership took a step back, hired a GM hired a head coach, and now they're rolling. And it's just that simple with the Cowboys. I've said it, man, 50 million times. If Jerry just hired Troy Aikman as the general manager and took a step back, the change with this team would be tremendous. Tremendous. It would give us Cowboy fans something super to be proud of. Probably ends with bowl. You understand what I'm saying? And it wouldn't take us that long to get there. I truly believe that. But in order to do that, ownership is going to have to swallow their pride, let a football person come in here, not an oil tycoon, a football person come in here, put this organization together the right way, and the results would be tremendous. Jerry would make just as much. He would make more money if the team actually was winning. I mean, not just winning, going 12-5 and losing in the first round. I'm talking about making NFC championship games or going to the Super Bowl, right? Everybody would be on the Cowboys bandwagon. Cowboys already got the biggest fan base in the world. You go anywhere, you can wear a Cincinnati Bengals t-shirt and everybody would be like, oh, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? That's great. You might be able to wear a Kansas City Chiefs now, you know, overseas, or, you know, in other countries or whatever. But you wear a Dallas Cowboys star on your shirt. Everybody, Dallas Cowboys. They know who that is. They know who that is. And like I've said, though, 50 million times on this show alone, I've said it 50 million times. It is hard to tell a dude that he's losing. It is super hard to tell a dude that he's losing when he takes $167 million and flips it to $12 billion. It's hard to tell him he's losing, and he's doing it his way. That dude knows how to make money. He just don't know how to make a football team. Agreed. Danny, I agree with you 100%, and we're going to talk about that either Friday or late Saturday. We're going to talk about it. I agree. Run the damn football. It makes me mad, too, because Jerry don't realize he would still get the credit for making the change. Steven is worse than Jerry. Now, that's the scary part, is that you're probably right. Who did he learn from? You know what I'm saying? That's the first thing. And the thing about it, too, man, is that it's such a simple fix. If you're an egotistical person like that and you have to feel like you're in control of everything, you understand what I'm saying? Then if I'm a guy that's coming in and I'm buying for this general manager job, I'd be like, look, man, I'm gonna put this team together, but you still signing the bottom line. You have to approve it. And I would go in there and make him think he thought all these ideas up. And he made, oh, yeah, I made this team. Just, hey, you know what I'm saying? Tickle his little fancy. Let him sign all the bottom of everything. And then as soon as we leave out the room, we're going to go out and do what we do. You know what I'm saying? But at the end, right, it doesn't matter because we're winning. Right? We're winning. That's what we're doing. And winning cures everything. You can be mad about the decisions that I made. You can be mad about this. And then you hear Mike McCarthy, you hear little rumbles about that Mike McCarthy's getting fed up with Jerry's antics. I'd be fed up too if I had to own landing this helicopter on the practice field in the middle of practice. I'd be pissed off. I'd be like, man, if you don't get that shit out of here, I'm trying to practice. I'm trying to win football games. But you got to stay relevant, right? You got to. It's tough, man. It's tough. But there are just things that can happen, man, here in the near future that can completely turn this organization around. And I like the way the young guys are playing. I like it. They've come in here, they play hungry, they play hard, and the results are showing. Rico, 3 games in a row, over 100 yards rushing. Just open up some holes for him, man. That's all you got to do. You know what I'm saying? But this is stuff that had to be done earlier, right? This had to be done early. This had to be done when Dak was there. Don't try to put don't try to put the whole game on Dak. He ain't that type of dude. You know what I'm saying? There aren't very many quarterbacks that are. Just is what it is. Okay. I done gone way over my time tonight. It's all good though, man. Talking these Cowboy stuff, I love it. All right. Saturday, we'll go and we'll do some we'll do a game preview. We'll talk about Tampa, what they do well, what they don't do well, what the Cowboys can do to counteract it. You know what I'm saying? And then we'll go and we'll do our game predictions. We'll do all of that stuff on probably it'll either be late Friday or late Saturday. I got some traveling I got to do this weekend, but I'm gonna come back and talk to you guys. And then Sunday, just like always, we'll go live right after the game and we'll talk about it. Hopefully we'll talk about a Cowboy victory. That's what I hope for. All right, everybody. I'm out. You guys have a great rest of the week. I'll see you guys either Friday or Saturday. We'll talk some Tampa Bay stuff. And then, as always, man, go Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys fans for life, baby. All right. We'll talk to y'all soon. Peace out.